All right. Here we go. Welcome back. This time around, we're hoping to get through a bunch of washes, but first, there's a few little details that I'm going to hit on this model before the washes. They're really tiny things, but I want to let them have a little bit of a chance to dry because they might end up with like one or two coats of stuff. So, to get the first coat in a little early is probably a good call. I'm using Averland Sunset right now. And mainly what I'm going to do with it is just hit the inside of some of these pustule boily things. And I'm just going to lay a little bit of paint in there into each one. I think eventually they'll get some Nurgle's rot over it. Um, the outside of these boils, the wash that they're going to sort of get to make them pop, um, is probably going to be Berserker Bloodshade. It'll just get it around it so it has that sort of look of a unhappy skin blemish. But I want to make sure that that blends nicely and doesn't make the yellow too loud. So some of that wash is going to go over even the spots that I paint in yellow. So they'll have a sort of sickly hue to them, look a little bit infected, which is always nice. There's just a lot of these little dots, so I'm just going to hit them as I find them. You can already see on camera, even though my lighting's pretty stale. Those little dots of yellow are going to help stand out. Starting on my Plague Lord's Chaos Lord when it arrives, I'd show you, but I don't know how. Oh, ho, 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 but you do, my friend. Hey, welcome. It's good to see you, Dane. Let me see here. How do I find this thing? Sure, but I don't know how. I should be able to invite you to a Discord channel. Hidden use copy button. Boink. Let's see how this works. The boink. You can drop it in there. It's not a very big Discord channel. And I don't really advertise it outside of the streams, but it is a good place to be able to share pictures and stuff. And sort of get little hey-oh when I'm going online. There's like 3 whole people in there. 4 including myself. But it's good folks. And people share little pictures of things, give sort of thumbs up here and there. But yeah, the main reason for it is exactly what you just described. I'd show you, but I don't know how. Now you do. I hope you're doing well this evening. Oh, it's got to be late for you, Dane. Should I say this morning? I'm happy to have you aboard. Things are moving right along on this model. Super tiny dots. Super tiny dots. A couple months ago, I would not have even touched these things out of fear. But now, I won't say that I'm fearless, but I do mess around a lot more. Yoink. Alrighty. Filling in these boils. Oh, I'd love it. Honestly, like go in there and absolutely just dump as many pictures of stuff as you got. I get so inspired by seeing other people's work. That's really what it's for. Like, don't be bashful. Just flood the thing with pictures of awesome, cool models. Love to see it. A new monolith. Monolith. That sounds. Monolith, monolith, monolith. Is that Ekron? Sounds Necronish. In which case, I'm all for it. Actually, I'm all for anything, to be honest. I love seeing how people paint models. It's one of the coolest things about this hobby is you get to see other people's interpretations of stuff, and sometimes you take ideas from it. Sometimes you just sort of celebrate just how unique everyone's stuff is. Everybody's models are like an expression of self. Genuinely cool to check them out. So yeah, I'm hoping through that Discord server, folks will do exactly that. Like, hey, I'm working on something. Check it out. Um, I'm on several other Discord channels and groups, and it can be a little intimidating. I still share my stuff in a couple spots, but not everyone is looking for a master's level critique everywhere. Sometimes you just want to have people see your stuff and be like, "Yo, that's cool." Um, People who do want critiques, all for it too. Um, but as far as that channel goes, like if you want a critique, just be explicit and ask for it, and people will do that too. There we go. There we go. Just a bit of yellow in each one of these boils. Just a dab, super gentle with the brush. I'm learning to keep a pinky somewhere on the model when I do stuff like this, just because it keeps things sort of aligned. I haven't had too much caffeine yet, um, so the shaking doesn't happen just yet. But we'll get there. We'll get there little by little. I'm going to try to stay on and power through a bunch of this model tonight. I'm feeling like I'm getting close. My favorite step has got to be the washes, and that's where we're at right now. Washes when it stops looking like 12-year-old me did it and starts looking like 13-year-old me did it. And it's cool. I get hyped for it. Lots of little dots. So yeah, by giving these boils a little spot of yellow in the middle, and there's a decent amount of texture on a lot of these boils, things will pop a little more when I get the washes on. And getting through this part early before the washes because they're probably going to get some Nurgle's Rot on them. I want the reddish wash that I use to blend the colors of that yellow and sickly green. I should hit more of these boils. I'm only hitting some of them. Well, it's a tough call. Ooh. Ooh. Very cool. There's an entire show and tell channel in there, which you should definitely drop all your stuff in. And it's basically just going to be kind of like, if you scroll through it, it's just kind of like a slideshow of people's stuff as more and more people add to it, which I think is just great. Just having a channel you can scroll through and just get inspiration from other people doing cool stuff. That's the bomb. To use a very old term. All right, so I spin this guy around. I have enough boils that got their Averland Sunset treatment in them. They look pretty good. I don't think I have to do the flies before I do any washing. So maybe if I'm lucky. Man, that monolith looks, that panel, it's really, really interesting stuff going on there. It's got a nice shine to it. There we go. Man, all that symbol work. Oof. I like it. I like it. Zip around to my 80 screens looking at different things. Alrighty. Boils, check. Oh, there's ground boils, but I'll worry about the ground later. Alright, yeah, we'll go straight to Nurgle's Rot. No, we won't. I'm going to use black for the flies. That'll give a little bit of time for the Averland Sunset to dry a bit. Dab a little bit of this here. The black that I'm using is just Abaddon Black, and it can used pretty thinly here. I don't need to like coat these flies. They're just getting a little bit of a dab of paint so that they pop off of the model a little better than they would do without it. They're super tiny. Not doing a ton of detail on them. Just making sure that those shapes properly show. So just carefully, it's just a bunch of little V's. Don't want to glob it on. Black is almost as dangerous a paint as the fist in red. Hit stuff with too much of it, and you're doing counter coats to fix things. So yeah, Dane, welcome to that Discord. Drop by in there anytime. Awesome pictures and models. I love to see them. There we go. Gently with the flies. I went a little over on that one, but it's cool. It's almost as thin as a wash, which is probably for the best. There are a lot of flies on here. Just want them to pop off the model a little stronger than they would with just a wash. Flies, 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 black flies. After this, we'll do some Nurgle's Rot, and then we can just start piling wash on. I'm going to use, what did I say I was going to use? I'm going to use Mortarian Grime on all the little cracks and crevices. Then I will use Berserker Bloodshade around all the blemishes, all the sort of boils. And then we'll start getting into business with some grime. And I've got dark streaking grime for this because the model's already a little bit on the dark side, so I want to make sure that grime makes a difference. Makes all the difference in the world. Make sure I'm grabbing this in a good spot. This model is tricky, not in a ton of obvious ways, but once you've got it together, how you handle it, you got to be a little careful because you're constantly spinning around every step for different spots to hit with the sort of same color you're using. And in a lot of cases, as you keep spinning it, you're grabbing the back side of the model because it's not sitting on a model holder, a handle, if you will. And you might just put your thumb into what you just painted on the other side. So you always want to look where you're grabbing, and the thing is covered in spikes, which certainly adds a little bit of a challenge. We're making good progress on these flies. Most of the paint is actually staying like within the fly and not getting over the edge, which is fine because we're going to rely on the wash to also pop the edge texture. So that's cool. Alrighty. And yeah, they are like, they're super dark, they're black, but I want them to stick out because they're very tiny. And it's the most elementary way I can think of doing it. All right, this side is looking pretty fly. Pardon that terrible use of a pun. Searching for more flies. There are flies, I think, on the base and some maggots. I'm not too worried about those. We may be getting into the wash step, which would be dope. So the other thing that I'm going to hit with, wow, that's a big old mistake. I'll get you later, buddy. The other thing that I'm going to hit with Berserker Bloodshade, there's going to be a lot of just sloppy washing, is all of this intestinal mumbo jumbo. That'll be fun to hit. Let's see, let me close this other thing over here. It's great having 8 million windows open. Boom. All right, one last check for flies. And I think I get this guy a little bit better. All right, yeah, let's move on to some washes. That's always fun. So I used Gilliman Flesh for this main sort of clayish color. It's a contrast paint, so it got some natural texture to it, but that's not quite enough. It's just not how we roll. So now we bring out the army of washes. If I'm going this way, you know what? Not quite washes. I did say I would use some Nurgle's Rot, and I'm gonna. And then when I go over to Berserker Bloodshade, I can hit the boils and the intestinal goop all in one run. So Nurgle's Rot for now. And this is an absolutely just like gnarly looking color. It's technical. I'm guessing that's probably because it's got like a sheen to it, a gloss. And I'm not overfilling these things. I'm not covering all of the Averland Sunset that I hit it with before. Just getting it into some of the edges, maybe on half the thing. I'll only hit some of these little dots, little pimply dots. I won't hit all of them. That's just to give like a second color look, a little bit of green, which will contrast nicely. Very tiny little specks of it. Just making things look nice and sickly. You know what? I can spill it in there because the yellow is showing through nicely. I can just do a double cover of that. Now that I see it on the model, it's looking nice and unhealthy. Just what we want. All right. We are rolling. Rolling, rolling, rolling. Other side as I stick my finger with this awesome spike. Always a risk. Just a tiny little dab in each little spot. All the difference, all the sickly difference. I'm surprised I haven't used Nurgle's Rot a lot. It's more of a recent pickup. Plague Bear and all the pustules and skulls. Painted to make it look really plaguey and finish. Nurgle's Rot in the entire model. Love it. Love it. Yeah, this one's going to be a pretty big experiment with griminess. Getting all the base stuff and a little bit of covering it in contrast. Gets the party started. This is really the phase where it starts to come to life. This model's got crazy texture to it. Lots of divots and pimpliness abound. And as far as how it stands out with the rest of my army, I think it'll be cool because you got a lot of green base going with a Death Guard army. And having this stand out a little bit, not unlike the meat wagon, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. A wonderful, distracting, precious Miasmic Malignifier. The most haha OP unit, Death Guard army. It pays for all of its power, being even slower than Terminators. wonderful speed of 0. Alright, get this dab, this little dab, that a dab, here a dab, there a dab, everywhere a little dab of good times. I'll give this guy a quick spin around. I can see where I may be using some Nurgle's Rot to just sort of, after everything's washed, after I'm pretty much close to done, just adding a little bit of drippy goop out some of these guys. All right, let's take a little pause, clean that brush a little bit. That's looking okay. Excuse me. A sip Earl Grey. By a sip, I mean a chug. Take a quick peek over here. There's going to have to be some cleanup with these skulls, but I'll figure that out later. I don't think I looked at them right when I painted them the first time, as I am often subject to do. All right. Berserker Bloodshade it is. That's pretty well shook already. I will grab my big boy brush. So the first thing I'm going to do is hit all this intestinal blah. Yeah, that's pretty gnarly. And this will be heavy-handed with. It'll bring a lot of texture out. I'll use a small brush when I get to the blemishes. Oh yeah, you look very unhealthy. Or very healthy, depending on how you look at it. Oh, that's such a good color. I love contrasts with the paints, but with the contrast you get out of washes, it's very, very nice. Really brings things to life. That'll probably get a slightly darker wash as well, but as a starting point, this stuff is delicious. Get right in there. You are coming to life, model. Coming to life. Now these crafts and stuff I'm going to hit with Mortarian Grime, I think I said. I think that's what I brought out. Still seems like a good plan to me. The nice thing about these intestines is that if you go a little heavy-handed with that Berserker Bloodshade, it's fine. If it pulls up, it just ends up looking like soppy blood drip goop stuff. Get some in there. That's going to get a black wash over this. Oh yeah, you're getting there, buddy. You are getting there. Happy times. This whole thing, these under here. All right, gently. Now some of these spots where this metal tubing meets the intestinal stuff, there's going to be some overlap of wash. That's fine. Being gentle, but I can't be paralyzed about it either. And that metal's getting that black wash. It's going to make it look real rusty, grimy. So, it's okay. There's some overlap there. And gently. Oh, yeah. Good washing time. And these drips here that I've seen occasionally, a color or two of paint, those are going to get Tesseract glow to really make them scream standing out, because there's only a few real drips on the thing. So I'm not too worried about the fact that they've been hit with some other stuff. If the Tesseract glow doesn't really sit well, I'll just repaint those guys a little bit and give them a solid background. But I think it'll be okay. Tesseract glow is like one of the most obtuse paints out there. Once you shake it, I've only actually done a couple times. The first couple times I used it, I was like, I didn't know what technical paint was. Didn't know that the word technical was basically heads up, this thing's different. Pay attention. Poured some out in a little bowl one time, like I was just gonna paint away with it. But now I understand it better. And man, when you shake it, it is violently colorful, and you can already see that stuff's clumping up on the bottom. I am gonna have to shake it again, even though I shook it before I got here. It's such a good paint, though. Oh my gosh. Comes screaming out the gate. Doing work. There we go. Now I gotta sneak in there a little bit, but that's a little easier with a wash. I say out loud before I screw it up. Yeah, there you go. You can just dab it in, and as long as the surface is a little bit damp with it, it'll scooch in, find where it needs to go, do some of the work for you. Just got to find a little insertion point. All right, so as I spin this around, yep, still more. Get you in there. Let you work your way into things. All right, all right. Yep, seeing a little spot where I missed some metallics, but I'll clean those up a bit later. And I'm going to dump down to a lower, smaller brush. And we'll get into getting around some of these boils, which I got to be careful with. This part I got to be pretty darn careful with, because I just want to get, just going to, boop, little touch, little touch, little touch. So get some on the end of the brush, and then you just sort of touch in there a little bit, get around the edge a little bit. I may need a brush that's a little bigger than this so it can payload some of it. Yeah, I'll get something a little bigger, but not huge. Actually, this guy's kind of beat up and doesn't have a point, which kind of makes it perfect. I wish you could see that, but it'll actually hold a slight drop of something on the end. That's kind of what I want to do, is just sneak in there with a little bit and just touch a couple times. Let it work its way around. Just dab it little by little, and it'll hug the side of that zit boil thing. Let's see if that stays in focus, but you know, right here, just get a little bit of a stronger edge to them. Just enough to make them stand out, pop a little bit. And you can kind of get away with just running a little bit of a circle around it and letting the stuff drip in where it needs to go. If I kind of get away with it, I think that's what I should be doing, because it looks like it's working. I kind of made that up when I said it out loud, but then lo and behold, it's not the worst thing I could have chosen. Just kind of go over the top of them. Get a little bit more on there and just gently go over the top. Let the wash settle where it wants to go. It likes little crevices and cracks and lean-tos. If you don't force it, I can actually hit that up there with a little bit more now. Get a nice dip. Yeah, that's good stuff. That is good stuff. I'm not too worried about going over that Nurgle's rot, as long as I don't go too crazy with this stuff. It'll still show through. It'll look pretty unhealthy. Bonus. A little bit more up into this brush. If you get a little heavy-handed in the spot, you can always just tap the brush on your paper towel and just get back in there with the brush that's dried a little bit, and it'll soak up that wash a little, help you move it around so you're not being too crazily heavy-handed with it. You want to put just enough in there so it's hugging the edge of these boils, and it's doing that. It's not going too far. It's just finding a little place. That's a bit much, but like I said, just grab some more on the brush from that little spot that I hit a little heavy and move it around. Remain calm. Calm, carry it on. I like it. I do like it. And I can already see in some of the spots where it started to dry that it is getting that look of a sort of overworked pimple of sorts. There we go. Bringing that illness. These guys I could just go straight over. And you can see they're starting to stick out a little better than they were before with that red sort of swollenness to them. So psyched. I'm like getting really close to halfway through this army. And I am but one Biologous Putrefier away from my combat patrol being ready, at which point I get to go play. I know I say that every time, and then obviously I'm not working on it, but he is sitting right there. He's primed. He'll be next. And then I gotta get on board with my local game store and find a game. Thankfully, my Death Guard are in a little bit better shape than they were a month ago. They're not fantastic, but that's fine. Got some new rules. Sound cool to me as a complete noob. But knowing that other wiser people than me are like, okay, I think I can play this now. Certainly sounds good. Not that I wouldn't have played them. I honestly don't care about the state of the rules personally all that much, but when more people are playing your faction, you can sort of read more stuff about them. I just want people to be happy with what they're playing. TBH. I'm not here for people to have fun. Alrighty. Yeah. Operation Boil is hella fun. Yeah, so by getting actually in these guys, there we go. It really does look like these boils are painful. That Averland and Nurgle's Rot comes right through nicely. So this is the point where I'm judiciously using washes. When I get to the Streaking Grime, I was very overly careful with my Night Tyrant. Overly careful. Doesn't really look all that streaking grimy. I will hit it again at some point. The thing's ready to play, so that's fine. But I was perhaps too careful with it. I mean, it looks good. I like it. Spins behind my head. I should probably turn that spinneroonie off. And it's grimy, but not enough. Not enough grime. It's a good start. Dope model. Should look back and see how much time it actually took me to get through that whole thing, because I think I was pretty much on camera almost the entire time. I think I did a couple little baby steps every once in a while at weird hours. It's just like up in the middle of the night or something. I didn't want to stream for quick 15-minute task here and there, but for the most part, I did it all on camera. Oh, yeah, you are looking gnarly. So gnarly. I'm just keeping an eye out for any boils or pustules that I missed. These guys here. Yeah, I do. I love Nurdle's Rot. I barely used it. I just didn't have it in my setup for quite a while. And then one of these other weeks, I just went online. Most of how I get my paints at this point is there's these Amazon offers where you just like pick 5 paints and just rack them all up together. So I've been doing that intermittently just to get like my color scheme, my palette a bit broader. But man, when I started, it was like very few colors. All right, so those boils are looking boily. This is probably a good time to black wash all of my lead belcher and take it down to like motor oil covered status on all this way too shiny stuff. And that'll give some chance for the boils to do their thing. I have a lot of lead belcher real estate to cover. I do like this Vallejo black wash. It's a trooper. You get more of it than you do out of Nuln Oil in a pot. There's just more in the squeezy for the price. I'm getting my second wind. This is probably going to be big brush territory. After I hit those spots of metal, then I'm just thinking out loud. Then I'll move on to Mortarian Grime and do what I did with these boils with all these little cracks and slashes and things like that. Alright, so hitting this metal, yeah, that looks like machine shopped, greasy, been up on the lift. Good times. It's a big brush, so you want to kind of be careful. You need a big brush for big spots like this because you got to really move that wash around and get around the edge. And you're pretty safe if you get a little bit of a dab of something somewhere. And thankfully wash is like wet stuff. It's not thick. So you just get in there with a Q-tip or your thumb when you botch a roll, a dex check, if you will. But with the brush this big, there is a lot of liquid on there. You don't want to, just want to try to avoid splashing it. And if you put a little bit too much pressure on the brush, at the end of it will flick. And if you don't see that when it happens, it'll just flick wash on a totally different spot on your model, which generally not a big deal when you're working in tiny models like infantry. It'll just flick on your table and you'll never know you did it. With a big one, I definitely found this with my Tyrant. The wash, get that little flick going. I put the thing down, blah, 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 I'll be working on it, or put the whole piece aside. I pick that piece back up again, and there's like string of dots. In most of those cases, I caught early enough where I could do something about it, but if it was like near the end of the night and I was sort of packing up and leaving the thing to dry and didn't check it, it's like checking for ticks after you go hiking, at least in this neck of the United States. If you don't do that final check, could run into problems. I don't mind redoing steps, but I'm trying to be responsible enough where like it's no longer a part of my process that I hit the undo button as many times. I don't mind hitting undo when I experiment and try something new, but if it's just out of not being mindful, that's something I'm definitely working on getting better with. Now, these pipes do have some boils on them, but because I'm doing this black wash and I don't think that really is going to work with those boils, these boils will get worked over afterwards. So unlike the ones on the pottery, I'm like, hey, this is going to get this red wash and it's going to work with them. Boils on the metal, they're not going to work with black. So I'm saving those to the end. And I'll just go over those by hand. Well, obviously I'm doing everything by hand. I'll just go over those individually, and they'll pop out from the wash a little better, and they won't inherit any of that black oiliness. Yeah, so you could definitely see, the metal here and here has absolutely been taken down from that super shiny. We're just going to continue that process around the model. And, the shine still comes through. It's not like you wasted your time with all that lead belcher. It takes it down to a spot where it starts looking really more medieval. Definitely not like some serf came by and shined it up. Yeah, that's good stuff. Get the blade. I do love the fact that it has these little loops in here that you end up hanging ornaments on. Like a Nurgle Christmas tree. It spits out plague. So good. Alright, that spike is good to go. Keep turning, get around this set of pipes. I need a lot more of this wash. Drip, 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 drip. This brush is really good for these parts. This is a big model. Lots of space. Get in here on this pipe stuff. It's hiding with the intestinal goop. What a cool model. Good job, Games Workshop. Lots of stuff to be happy about, and lots of good practice if you're into Death Guard things. The only thing this doesn't have is like tentacles. It doesn't really have any bone spikes either. But it's got a lot of the bits that you'll come to enjoy when you've fully embraced Nurgle. Another tubey pipe thing. Love the fact that Nurgle and Death Guard are like strangely industrious chaos forces. They build stuff when they attack. They build all kinds of stuff, and not just like entrenchment. They just show up and build chaos devices to like better push chaos into the mortal realm. All these weird toys. It's almost orc-like. It's just like, yep, it's weird Mortarian clock. It's just made out of chaos. Mortarian thinks it works. He's done some sorcery around it. Now it's here to sort of stymie Gilliman and make him think twice about what his next move is. And you think about it, it's like, well, Death Guard Cuckoo Clock. Sure. Sure thing, buddy. Whatever works. You do you. Laying this stuff in. Oh yeah, you're happy, Pipes. Once you get your black wash, you start behaving. All the nuts and bolts start popping beautifully. These little cracks will look gorgeous. Just sort of get in here, make it look well worked, well sooted. Whatever dark business this machine does, it ain't clean. It ain't clean at all. It's unsavory. That's what it looks like. Ooh, scooch a little bit in there. Let the liquid do its work. Just take your time and enjoy it. Yeah. Oh, good times. My happy place, putting in washes. Plop a little extra amount for you there. Get around those edges. Those holes, those little nubbins. Oh yeah, get some. This whole thing is in good shape. Scooch some of that around. Oh, I gotta get this whole panel. So much to paint. All the way back there. Yeah, now you're dripping. Now you're dripping with black wash. Now you're cooking with gas. Make sure I'm holding this very carefully as I rotate it around. Oh yeah. Front grates. I gotta remember that there's dripping glop there when I do my pass of Tesseract Glow. That'll be easy to forget. You know what? I don't think I actually have to get inside there all that much. I was a little worried and I thought I was going to end up having to drip a decent amount of black wash in there. I did spray inside with my primer a bit, but I was worried about it being too light in there, but I'm not terrorized by it. I think I only kind of need to just get in there and it'll stay dark. It'll stay dark. That's good. Mistake though. Not really a mistake. Lack of foresight. Before putting this panel on is great. Should have put a Nurgling in there. Little treat, little Nurgling guy sitting in there would have been gorgeous. I need a lot of Nurglings. If I could get my 3D printer to work, it would be 24/7 printing out Nurglings to add the stuff. Put one little guy up on my Tyrant shoulder. All these little places for fun spots for Nurglings to hang out. Great basing material. If you add one Nurgling to a base, and it just takes all of that horrifying disgustingness of the Death Guard and makes them comical. Darkly so, thankfully. It's not Three Stooges, but Nurglings are just freaking awesome. Sassy one. Love that guy. Alright, oh, that's a little sloppy, but I'll live with it. Get some more around the base of this, which I can be sloppy here because I still gotta paint that whole base thing no matter what. So that's good. Yeah, I just hit these bolts because I'm here. I have this spike to do. Let's go ahead and switch my hand up a little bit. Change positioning. Get all the way around the edge. I do like how those boils turned out. As they dry, definitely popping much better than they were before. That Berserker Bloodshade working, doing its thing. This stuff is thin. There we go. Now we're back in black. I got to get through as much of this model as I can tonight. My whole house, except for me, is getting sick. Two tiny little kids sick. 12-year-old sick. My wife's got it. I have a funny feeling. I have a lot of errands to run tomorrow. I have a funny feeling the whole rest of the day is going to just be taking care of everyone else, which I'm happy to do because I'm not sick. But I don't think I'm going to be painting much. Duty calls. Only in death does duty end. There you go, Wash. You are doing the Lord's work. Excuse me. All right, I do have to sneak behind these though and get a hefty amount of wash in there just to darken things up. Yep, that's the one spot. I was like, maybe I'll leave this piece off and then assemble it after I paint it. I was like, well, I'm so close to doing the whole thing. And it's, strangely enough, the whole base attachment, that's fine. You can get around everything down there. If your standards are pretty low like me. But this one little piece of tube, just getting behind it is a bit wily. But you'll get all washed up back there and you'll be fine. Yeah. All right, get this pointy blade. Yes, indeed, lizard. Welcome aboard. I love this step. I love it. It just takes all of that flatness every single time. Like, oh, now this is starting to look like a model I like. I've gotten way better at anticipating it. But man, once you're here, oof, you dunk it. Get it in there. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. Grime for the grime throne. What a model. I did not have, well, I had time, but I didn't have the opportunity to varnish this today. My hope was that I would varnish it and then grime it. It was like misting out all days. The day that I primed this was like perfect priming day, and then today was like the don't bother going out and even trying to prime anything, varnish anything, any of that. It was just like wet, gray, no sun. Nothing would have dried. Outdoor bust of a day. There we go. All right, I got this chunk to do down here. This sort of support piece. Finally got back in the saddle. Got another lore video posted today. I had not done one of those in a while. Take a pretty hefty amount of production time. Real hefty. And the last few weeks have been real busy with work. And I've been on a painting frenzy. And excuses, really. Which is fine. I don't mind making excuses. But it was good to get a lore one done because I get excited for those. They do require editing, which is nice. I am trying to get better at editing. Just haven't had crazy time for it. But through taping and recording the VO and editing it, I'm like, man, I hope I'm right about Henry Cavill. Someone on some forum somewhere posted that, like, oh, well, Amazon got the rights to 40K. They didn't get the rights to, that doesn't mean they have the rights to Horus Heresy. But I'm pretty sure it does. Pretty sure it does. We'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if Games Workshop's IP structure was extremely weird. And the deal's not final. But I do really think that their best call would be to have Henry Cavill play Garviel Loken. The perfect character. You think about starting a series about the universe. Gets you into the Horus Heresy. You shouldn't play a Primarch, that's for sure. You're supposed to be a distance away, and they'll find great actors for each Primarch, that's for certain. Shouldn't play the Emperor. Never should get in the Emperor's head for real. Even the authors don't think so. It's like used as a device of like, hey, this guy is otherworldly. There's a reason why they call him the God Emperor. But we'll see how it holds. At least I put my sort of stamp down, or if I'm right, I have a sort of legacy I can point back to and be like, I said that a long time ago. I knew it. And get all smug about it. Because that's how we do. More in this metal in here. Yeah, get ugly. Once you take the metal down, did I get all 4 spikes? There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4. Got around this, around that. Once you take the metal down, once that black wash really dries in there, spread a little bit of this around. It just looks medieval. Surly looking. There we go. What a change. What a change. All right, so I can set this down. I'm going to give it not a long time to dry. I'm just going to give it a minute or two. I realize I'm a bad person. I don't let anything dry enough. Sometimes I do. Not bad all the time. I have my moments of wholesome goodness, but next will be Mortarion Grime that I'm going to just try to hand insert. I don't know if you can see the camera, but there are all these like scratches in here. They got a little bit of texture depth. I'm just going to get a little bit of Mortarion Grime in there because it's not green, but it's like greeny browny green. And I think that'll look good. It may entirely disappear when I grime this thing. I'm not going to be as cowardly with the grime this time. This is a smokestack. If it looks comedically grimed up, I'm cool with that. But at the very least on the bottom, where it'll get a lot less grime, these cracks being filled in with Mortarion. Well, it's still called Mortarion Grime, but it's not, whatever, it's streaking. With a little bit of that green there, it'll sort of give some contrast, look neat. I'm excited. I like the color scheme of this. I was hesitant, but it's cool. I'm going to be excited to put this on a table. I don't know how I'm going to squeeze it into my army. I think I have to lose 1 of 3 Plague Burst Crawlers to do it. But I feel like dropping this thing on a table on principle. I think it's actually for like Death Guard. I think if you analyze it atomically, it's not a great unit for the cost. You know, if you go like, you know, the Auspex Tactics route, I absolutely agree that like by point cost, it's not crazy. But if you think about how long it takes to get Death Guard up the field, having a little bit of extra cover, nice. If you think about how the Plague stuff works now, thankfully they updated it, not too shabby. Could be cool. But I do like the idea of just like infiltrating with a small furnace. The absurdity and lore appropriateness of it is hard for me to deny. Just hit reload on this page over here. Oh yeah, lore videos got 14 views. My lore videos absolutely are just like, they're evergreen. Like they get views in little drips and drabs, but they do not pop off fast. They just slowly accumulate. I think what happens is someone gets to my channel from somewhere, and they see one of them, and they're long. I think the one that I put up today is like a half hour. They see one, maybe watch like 10 minutes of it, but then they do come back. Takes them a while to get going, but But once they do, keeps people engaged. That is not the right brush for this job, I don't think. I may come back to it, but I think I might need a tinier one. Nope, that may have been the brush to do it. Just need to move things around a little bit. Start up here, work its way right down the crack, so to speak. I know that sounds weird, but it will do it. Alrighty. Yeah. And it makes it look like there's some sort of seepage happening with the cracks, which is good. I'm just dabbing it gently. But it makes it look, oh, that, you say gently, and then you drop a huge glop on it. There you go. Just move it around. Complete Horus Heresy deep dive video. Well, I will. I have a good answer for that. The catch is I'm new, so I haven't read all the books, but I understand that like the first 9 are like the super mega canonical ones. So the answer to your question, Lizard Wizard, is I think so. The End and the Death book. There's 3 of them. It's the end of the Siege of Terra. It's literally how the Emperor gets murked out, turned to the geriatric corpse on the throne. I think I will do a pretty deep dive into the whole thing, which will take multiple parts after I've read that book, because I'm seeing enough connective tissue between the, and actually in this last post about Henry Cavill playing Garviel Loken, it starts to allude to it. It's is it Dan Abnett, the author, like is doing the End of the Death trilogy, and he started with Horus Rising, and the amount of parallels between them is pretty amazing. And I cover some of that in this video. I'll just, it's not a spoiler, I'll just talk about it because I'm right here. I'm not like, oh, go through my review. Horus gets into this like fugue state as he's in orbit over Terra, and he's talking to like his crew and his soldiers, and he's like in his head, it's like the beginning of the Horus Heresy. He thinks he's having this imaginary conversation with this remembrancer from the very first book, Mercedes something or other. So he's gone nuts. Like he's in like, it's a central theme of the very end. Like Earth is being kind of wholesale absorbed into the warp, and so time and space are starting to mean a heck of a lot of nonsense. They don't make sense. Like the Imperial City doesn't geographically make sense. People march for what feels like a day or two and don't get to the destinations that they're supposed to be at. Or you walk in this direction and you're supposed to be near this gate, but now you're facing this opposite direction. There's like millions of people, refugees, just like trying to get away. And so the warp is coming. So that's just like in the same way when you travel through the warp, you're like, whoops, I showed up 3 years before I left. Oops, sorry. Get a refund on your plane ticket. That's happening on Earth all over the place, and especially around all this battle that's going on in the Imperial City. And so it's a very interesting, when you play with time like that, the author, Abnett, really does an interesting job of doing a lot of callbacks to the very beginning, like to the very first book. And so I feel like once I've read, I think it's the one about like guessing by the title. I don't remember offhand, but I think it's the 9th book is the one about the Admech sort of rebellion on Mars, where that becomes a problem. I think when I've read all those, which I'll have done before book 2, of the End and the Death, then I can start painting. I can start that series, that deep dive, because I'll still have months before the final The End and the Death book comes out. So the second one, I think, is Sanguinius and his role of showing up for the big fight. And then I think the third book, I think they've already said this basically is how they go. Um, that's when the final hoedown showdown happens. But at the end of the first of that trilogy, Loken, who is present throughout the book, finds this weird passageway in a library, and there's a bunch of like sleuth work that happens. So the book is all over the place, but he finds this secret passage that, because the warp has messed up time and space, opens it, and it's a passageway into the Vengeful Spirit, which is Horus's ship, which is presently in orbit, and which the Emperor and his strike team has just teleported to and then lost contact with. Like, what a crazy end to a book. So when I say Loken's important, like he's all up in it. And he's sort of coping with like all these memories of the past. So I think that will be the point at which I start really trying to suss out the Horus Heresy. But man, am I glad I've gotten started. I'm on Fulgrim right now, and that book is a secret treat. I really was only familiar with Fulgrim and the Emperor's Children through like memes and stuff. So my opinion wasn't too high. But the author of the Fulgrim book does a really bang up job of really explaining how this god of sensual experience and excess takes root. And it's not just like Fulgrim go nuts. Like Fulgrim's already going nuts before Horus even tries to do any convincing. He's already a mess. It's great. Like you've got these remembrancers on board. They're all like artists and whatever, and they all sort of get affected by this clarion call of the warp and Slanesh, and they just start doing weird stuff. They start murdering each other. This one artist is like using her blood in paint, and then eventually it's like she's actually using poop in the paint, which I'm like, yeah, go for it. A little secret head nod to Nurgle. You want to play that side? I'm for it. But all these characters just do terrible, weird stuff as they like go into the depths of madness. Really good stuff. I'm reading it very slow though, because I kind of get to like hit a little bit of it at the end of the night when I'm trying to fall asleep. And it's no criticism. It does put me to sleep. It's just that by the time I get to it, I'm so tired that I'm not even thinking straight. All right, so I think I hit all those crickety cracks, crevasses, which means we're eking ever closer. So I keep making excuses, but it's a weekend night, so I can take my time. Hit some Seraphim Sepia on these skulls. These skulls are going to need a lot of cleanup work because I sort of doinked it, but that's okay. We'll get there eventually. But if I get this Seraphim Sepia on there, I'll feel better about it. I think I have to do something. Well, maybe if I just glom this in there, it'll look cool. That's a lot of Seraphim Sepia, buddy. I got to use this big brush more often instead of bringing that weak wash game. All right, well, these don't look good, but they look better. I can get around them with a little something else once this washes in there. But I always feel more comfortable about my skulls once they've got some Seraphim Sepia. So like up top, they're fine. On the bottom, it's just, especially this middle spot, it's just not actually bone. I'll probably just do like run a little bead of black in there so they're not all super connected. Just looks weird. Yeah, get you some big old blop. All right. We You've procrastinated enough. Tonight's flavor. I do have a choice to make. I've got dark streaking grime. Because I bought a whole set. It came with streaking grime, dark streaking grime, rust colored streaking grime, griming grime. So as I said, I didn't get to varnish this, which I probably should have. I should wait, but I don't care. Because I just want to do stuff. I'm now going to lay in with a pile of this. Thank you, Lizard. I know where the instructions are now. It's on the side of this. Apply a lot of it. Remove it. Good to know. I'm going to start with this smokestack, and I'm going to be pretty darn liberal with it this time. You know, if you figure there's just plague pouring out of this, and there's condensation happening, whatever, figure at the very least I can go very heavy on the top, like 2/3, maybe even all 3 sections of this. I can hit these guys on the sides, and that'll leave me with a decent amount of, I can go lighter around the rest of it. I don't know if I'm going to do that yet. This might get a different wash below here, but at the very least, the sort of like condensation of glop can work nicely. It'll look smokestacky. If you've seen, you know, old pictures of, you know, even pre-World War II, like smokestacks where they used to just like burn coal or oil out of them all the time, like they look nasty. They just look like junk. That's the reason smokestacks exist, so the stuff goes up there and it's out of sight, out of mind, and then it can get up in the rain clouds, rain on you properly, and make people sick for centuries. I do have to grab my mineral spirits or neutral spirits or whatever stuff. But I don't need to grab it now because I can just lay this stuff in. So, looking at what we got. This ugly. Oh, yeah. Got it all over my hands. I don't know why. I smell it every time like an idiot. Just like knock off a couple brain cells while I'm hanging. Thankfully, I didn't knock it on my shirt. I don't know if my lighting is colored correct, but I can see it on the screen. That is what this stuff looks like. It is. It's dark. We are not messing around. I'm going to. I will not cower before it. I'm just going to use it. What I need to do, though, is get this ring of green gently out of the way. I'll just flip it over on this paper towel, let it sit there, get a bunch more on my finger in the process. Oh, this stuff is nasty. This is not, hopefully I'm not foreshadowing, not a bottle you want to knock over at all. That's a ruination bottle. All right, make the triple circle Nurgle sign of the cross, and let's just get it on. Oh yeah, that is blah. I even get on the metal. That's fine. Oh, you're gross. This is a party. This is such a party. Oh yeah, get in there. Probably gonna take some of my base coat off. It's all good. Look at how green that is. Oh my god. It take great courage to see this through. I do feel, right now, I feel like I'm ruining my model. Place your bets. Yeah, that's true. Oh my god. This looks like I'm absolutely destroying this model. I love it. Did I manhandle that? I don't think I did. Alright. Get in there, Grime. Do your thing. Going to be streaking in a few minutes. Oh, heavenly. Heavenly grime. And of course, my first thought with this, just like I did with the AK slime stuff, just like, what if I just use this as paint? Oh, funny. Look at it. Ugh. It's glorious. Glorious grime. Get it on the metal. Yuck. Sure, you can get on all the flies, that's fine. I was going to try to avoid them now. They're all in it. All right, nice and thick and gloppy. Just glop a little bit around the edge here. What I'm actually going to rely on when I hit it with the mineral spirits, and this may go terribly, but I'm going to actually rely on the drippiness of it carrying it down, sort of like candle wax. And that may be a very cursed way to go, but I'm going to do it because it was dripping a little bit on my Night Tyrant, and I put some little pads down to sort of rescue it. But this time around, we're just going to let this stuff flow. Every once in a while, I jokingly am like, did I ruin this model? But like, having never done the full treatment of this stuff before, it absolutely seems like I have. It sure feels that way. It'd be awesome if none of this came off. Spread that out. It does look like it's ruining the model, doesn't it? So, so what's going to happen is I'm going to hit this with neutral spirits, and it should come up in a lot of spots. It should come right off. It absolutely looks like it's ruining the model. I agree. But this is one of those, I may not know exactly what I'm doing, but I saw it in a video once, and I've seen people absolutely just lay this stuff on. I'm with you, Dane. I'm terrified right now. Make sure I don't get my hands on any of it. It's the Christmas model. It looks roughneck. Get around the back of this guy. A little bit underneath here. And then I'm supposed to give it about 20 minutes to dry a little bit. And then we'll see if this method totally ruins my model or not. I'm hoping not. Desperately hoping not. But I've absolutely seen videos where, like, they cover the whole thing, come back in 20 minutes later and wipe the whole thing down, and it really gets in the cracks and crevices. But yeah, that looks pretty jacked up, right? All right, I will get up now. We'll let this sit, make sure I don't get any on my hands. Get some of this stuff off of my precious brush. It absolutely looks like it's ruining the model. But I'm hopeful. Very hopeful. That stuff is wild. All right. Are you cleaned? You're not clean. You still got grime on you, buddy. And I don't mean thoroughly clean. I just mean rinsed off. There we go. I'm going to step up to the other side of this room and get my mineral spirits. have it. Alright, I should set a little bit of a timer so that I'm not just blankly waiting. Let's see here. Look. This is sort of the intermission. I set it for 13 minutes, just kind of presuming it. Use the same technique with my Tau Breacher in the Discord. It'll look way better after you wipe it off. I trust. I trust. It may turn out that based on how it wipes, that I may need to hit the whole model with it. Yeah. So Dane, they say like 10, 20. Some people say a half hour. A lot of times you'll take a pad or a towel and just sort of gently wipe the whole thing. I'm going to get in there with a Q-tip, and I'll still be gentle about it, but it's going to absorb, it's going to pull up a lot of this mineral spirits. And so there will be some dripping that in theory will slowly come down. In theory. We experiment, we try new things. But yeesh. So funny. The Christmas model. I am thinking very much about using the sort of lay it all on to get different squads of 7 Plague Marines that I can easily distinguish. Oh, hey, Tiny. Just played against Nurgle and their new rules. It was fun. Or Death Guard, yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. And every time I talk about being excited about rules, it's so ridiculous. It's not hypocritical. That's pretty close. Like, I've never actually played. I'm excited to. I'm like past halfway there to getting a 2,000 point army. But I care a lot about rules. Because I make games for a living, and I'm a game nerd. So hearing the changes sounds really awesome. They work for the army I was trying to build that I've never tested, that obviously has this Miasmic Malignifier in it, so what do I know? But I'm psyched. I felt bad for a lot of the Death Guard folks that have been playing for years when 10th came out. Like, the Death Guard 40k Reddit was a sad, near toxic place to hang out. And I respect that. Like, I don't think everyone should. I'm okay with playing an underdog or someone who's just imbalanced. But I think everyone's entitled to their opinion, and a lot of people have invested a lot of their time and money into it. And it just felt like the Death Guard rules were an afterthought, like someone kind of put the first pass in and then like never went back and updated them. So the recent updates are really good. Some people are starting to be happy. Yeah, they do have fun stuff. So my plan is to actually have 3 squads of 7 Plague Marines that go in with, and I just got them. Got 2 of these guys. I'm going to kit bash a little, and then make a third that's like almost entirely kit bash. But I got some Chaos Lords, not in Terminator armor, because those guys can only be Terminators. And these guys, it's like every, whatever it is, battle phase, everyone, both turns, anyone within plague range has a chance to take some mortal wounds, which is pretty neat. You can add to that sort of plague radius. Now you can add -1 to whatever it is, ballistic and weapon skill for people attacking. So like, hopefully I can get these squads in there. They're still decently strong in melee. If I can get them far enough, because they're wicked slow, and get them sort of stuck in the mud with other groups of troops from the other side, like they'll be continuously doing these mortals. I'm hoping to shell people with Plague Brisk Crawlers, because I thought that was cool even before it was cool. Hopefully, get a lot of early hits with those in a round where I'm battle shocking the enemy a bit, so they can't use, you know, command points as well, because that's going to be something where everyone I play against is going to have an advantage there because I've never played before. And then I'll have this guy instead of Mortarion sitting around as a massive threat who can stay in the backfield for as long as he wants, or if he needs to rush forward and stomp things, can do that, and that'll kind of be my shtick. And I'll have a Miasmic Malignifier. I'll have a Nurgle Christmas tree out. I don't know what could possibly go wrong. It'll be fun, and then I'll also have Typhus running around with 20 Poxwalkers, and that'll teach me a lot of stuff. It'll teach me to use vehicles. It'll teach me a wide number of rules. I think I get to Deep Strike with Typhus, so it'll teach me about that. Also, it's a huge squad to screen with. It'll remind me that I have psychic attacks. Like I'm building this army up to kind of teach me the game more than necessarily win it. Sounds like a plan. Yeah, and this one little guy, Biologus Putrefier. He's next after this thing. Once I get this guy done, I can at least start doing combat patrol games and getting my feet wet. But I'm psyched. You know, this whole 0 to 40k thing just started in April or May, maybe early May. And preceding that, I had only ever played like some Warhammer video games. So I've come a long way. Only a few army out there able to basically ignore, yeah. Yeah, Tiny. I know there's some armies that are going to be able to ignore a lot of that stuff, but I'll figure something out. I mean, I legit, like, I don't think I'm going to win a game for quite some time, but there's so much about it to learn. It's such a different game. It's so rules laden that I just need to first start with just getting fluency with the phases and like remembering to do stuff. Like I've watched plenty of videos, but like I've never put my units in the field on my side. And there's like an amazing amount of strategy with just where you plunk guys and like lines of sight. Charging and piling in, like I understand, practically speaking, what those things are and the point of them, but have I ever done it? Nope. And I desperately need to get a better understanding of other factions. I know like this much about how orcs work, and that's because I think they're cool. I know this much about how the Tau work. I know this much about the Necrons. In terms of like Space Marine factions and all their extra stuff, no idea. Eldar? No idea. Zero. It'll be fun though. Everybody's got a hard counter, and as you go around the wheel, degrees armies can counter your own. That sounds good to me, and that's a concept that I'm very, very familiar with. I like that. I would just have to put them on a wheel to be a good understanding of that. Well, I got about 4.5 minutes left to wait for the moment of truth. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna set it this way so it looks nice and pretty on the stream in case anyone's wondering. Magic. This really is a moment of truth. It'll be a revelation. With that Night Tyrant, I was like painting it on like a coward. I knew I was at the time. But yeah, this is cool. I'm very excited to play. I don't know a lot of people. I don't know anyone actually that plays right now personally. So I've got to do the whole like stranger danger, go out to my local game store and make friends, which I'm fine with making friends. It's just I don't know. I just don't roll with strangers that much these days. I'm not as outgoing as I used to be. Obviously, I'm working on that by putting my face on the internet and doing voiceover for silly lore stuff. So it's all part of this journey. Yeah, I've heard that Necrons have like one or two ways to kind of just have like a certain squad just be perpetually out there. Like they just keep backfilling and backfilling to the point where you may just have to like ignore them and just like yield an objective marker or something like that. Um, I also, from what I know, they're like pretty shooty, which is cool. They may be a decent shooty faction for me to play at some point. I love their aesthetic, love it. Almost wiped out the Nids. Yeah, Tyranids I don't know much about. All I know is that they're like objective control stuff. Maybe making this up from some video I saw, but like their OC stuff is based on like hive mind things, so they have to be certain. The little guys have to be closer to the big guys or within a certain range. That part, Gene Stealer cults, I don't know anything about whatsoever. I think they're like ambushy, weird rules. Um, yeah, and your local meta, meaning the players you face, change how you'll end up playing. I'm sure of that. What you end up fielding is true in one person's gaming circle is not in others. That part I'm used to. That part I am very used to. I do have some friends that I either board game with or have played some other like smaller scale, not the big kahuna of Warhammer, tabletop type stuff, and even card games. You run into that too with the local meta. Um, that'll be fun. Yeah, I just hope to like make some friends and have a decent time. Um, it'll be cool. All right, minute 29. Let's go. I don't have the patience. I just don't. I have patience in my life for a lot of things, but painting excitement, that gets me. I let my inner 12-year-old just rampage. I missed whole sections underneath of Dark Wash. Happens every time. You set the model down a different direction. Forget you did stuff. I mean, it's still wet in some spots, but I can hit it. It looks like it's. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's ready. Let's do this. All right, I'm going to close this guy up so I don't knock this bottle over and wreck everything in this entire room with it. Out of sight, out of mind. Move over to the mineral spirits. I am going to preemptively pull off a couple pieces of paper towel. Knock them subsequently right off the table. Alrighty. Oh, model. I hope I'm doing you right by this. First time for going ham on everything. Not the first time I've done this process, but the first time I've done it for realsies. All right. Let's see how this goes. All right, it is starting to come off. I'm going pretty light with it. Just gonna, yeah. I don't think you can see on camera how much is coming off or not, but I am literally dipping the Q-tip in and just dabbing it on liquid wise and letting it. I did do a little scraping, and I will do a little bit of rubbing, but I'm gonna get a lot on there so it just starts pre-gaming the loosening process. Oh, Christmas colors. I don't, maybe I should just, yeah, if I'm gentle, dab a little bit, gentleness to it. Yeah, I think this whole model's probably going to get it. I think that's what's going to happen in the end. We'll see. Yeah, me too, buddy. Me too. It's terrifying. It is terrifying. Oh man, this is the kind of risk I'd be horrified to take if I was like doing this while I was in college. You have like no money. You're like, I'm gonna get this bottle and I'm going to eat nothing but rice for the next week. But my old age, I could be somewhat cavalier. Yeah, I don't think. Oh, that's neat. That is really neat. I don't think the effect that I intended, sort of looking like it was going to drip down, is necessarily going to work. I may end up having to hit this whole thing. Maybe it will. We'll see. I'm going to stick with it. All my experiments, I prefer to see through to the end than cut halfway, unless I really know something's failing. It doesn't look that way yet. I think I should probably use a new Q-tip. But I'm adding a bunch of this mineral spirit on here, and it is starting to drip all over the place. And that part's intentional. All right. So I'm going to pick up, make sure that I'm still in the shot. I'm getting so excited over this that I'm like leaving the camera shot. I'm going to pick up all the excess liquid up here and just dab it down here. Yeah. Go get him, Goop. Oh, it is spilling down. Oh, Nurgle, I hope you are pleased with this offering. I am definitely going to have a squad of Plague Marines that are getting the drip treatment. All right, I'm going to move on to these other smokestacks. Just keep on going. Yeah, if I do have to retcon any part of this experiment, it'll be to just hit the entire model with it, but now I definitely get it. I mean, I'm not intentionally trying to cause any trauma here, but yeah, this is a little bit scary, buddy. I'm happy to have a good friend along for the ride. Oh yeah, a big drip is awesome. Let's do this. Oh yeah, it's absolutely dripping down the model. I didn't realize in the back where I was holding it this way. It's good. It's good. It's good. It is working. And it is streaking. It is freaking streaking. You know what? I'm gonna take the time to just brush it in a little bit. There we go. Yeah, I think the whole thing's gonna get this. I think that's what's gonna happen. It is definitely working and doing what I want. I just think it has to probably be the whole model, not just piecemeal. Oh, this is terrifying, horrifying even. Use the other side. This is one of those cases where great power comes a heck of a lot of irresponsibility. Yeah. I am having a blast doing this though. It feels so wrong. It looks so wrong. It feels so right. Really is where I'm going with this. I'm blistering these guys up. Alrighty. Alrighty. You do look grimy. You look hella grimy. You look super washed. Look at that soot. You know what? I might not do the whole thing. I might not. It does look sooty. I mean, I could rub a little bit of this around, but it looks like it's dripping. Yeah, I put it on the whole model to make it look like it's used. Yeah. Well, I could do that in a second step. Yeah, let's just grind this thing up. Let's just go ham. You're right. You're right. As I go willy-nilly back and forth between mineral spirits and grime. Yeah, we're just going to commit to it. I like how it looks. I think it's dope. It just, you're right. It needs more of it. Now I got to be really careful about where I grab this thing. There we go. I can do it like that. Yep. Everything just benefits from more grime. What a fun grime party. I will say this, Dane. It's fun. it's good chaotic fun. Like being destructive. Oh yeah, there we go. Now I'm very intentionally going to leave some of this intestinal spots. Oh, this looks dope. Ungrimed. Some of the metal ungrimed, so it will eventually have a drippier look than it does right now. I'm pretty sure that I can say that with confidence now that I've done that part. I can get the dripping right, but the expectation that it was going to drip enough from up top there, that was a little over ambitious. Look at this, I'm just blah 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 blah. All right, it is grime time in the old town tonight. Oh, this stuff is so cool. I want to do all kinds of craziness with this now. I am so horrified, happy, yeah, fun but scary, exactly. Laying it in there. And this stuff is like a really deep green. And so I'm going to get this like crazy amount of contrast out of this model because underneath it's all Gilman flesh, which is very red. Very, very red. Wow. Wow. Just spinning it around. Transformative. Yeah, get you. Pull, 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 pull. All right, well, I'll give this another 10 minutes to dry, but we did commit to the plan at this point. I should take a picture of this. It just looks comical. Oh boy. Things we get ourselves into, and obviously my paint water is just a wreck right now. It's a paint varnish water. I don't know what this is doing to this brush, but it can't be good. It can't be. All right, once again, close this thing up. Fun but scary. Yeah, let me take a picture of it. Yeah, there's definitely some Death Guard stuff going on. How to do scary things and ruin your model in one easy step. This is the tutorial. That would be my clickbait thumbnail. But it will try just briefly because I'm just sitting here. It's just towel wiping a little bit. Oh yeah, I can see why people do it that way too. Yeah, too late to turn back. Yeah, let's do this. It's the way it behaves is not entirely unlike a wash, but it's very reductive, um, and it's very clingy. You know, because it gets to like that near dry state before you take it down. Uh, you have a great degree of control. Like I'm laying in on it with Q-tip after Q-tip of mineral spirits, so that it gets a bit of a drip to it, and as a result, then it's acting more like a wash in the place where that mineral spirit builds up. And it's just pulling more of that stuff to it. I don't want to tilt this too much, but like you can see that it's hugging much closer to where the metalwork is, like a wash would, which is kind of neat. But you have much more of a gradient because it's much thicker, and you're taking it back from painting over the whole thing. I dig it. It did completely and utterly solve the problem I was lamenting about in terms of having no spacing between those skulls. I was crying about that about an hour ago. That's not a problem anymore. It's been all filled right in. Hmm. I wonder if this guy is a good experiment. Nah, I'll probably do it with a full squad. I don't want this guy to stand out in the wrong way, and he's got a lot of detail work that I just want to get right. But I think a squad of 7 Plague Marines that are just done, that are primed, get a little bit of a dry brush of something like maybe a gray, and then dipped, and then wiped down. Like I'm not big, I don't want to, I'm not big into speed painting per se, but like that for a full squad might actually give them a very, very interesting look that I'd like. I don't think I'd be able to do it straight from priming. I think I would prime them, probably hit them like I did this squad with a little bit of like that off-white sepia thing in some spots, just so that different parts of the model pop a little bit, then dip them in this dark grime is ooh, gross. Hit them with that, wipe it down, see how it looks. I did lay it on pretty heavy, so this will take some time to dry. Just gently fan it. I would get a blow dryer out, but that would just be annoying, and I'm not going to mute myself. Oh, buddy. What a way to top off a week of good times. Oh, got another view. Dribs and drabs on my lore stuff. Dribs and drabs. it is funny how strangely certain YouTube videos take off, certain ones don't. Um, One of the things I really like about posting stuff on YouTube um, is that it's like very clear. Like some of the videos that I put a little less effort into, or that like were a little bit more poorly planned, like they just tank. It tells you a lot about like the quality of your work. Um, and then some of them that like it's not all about the amount of effort. It's like whether or not you're focused on it and doing well. And some of them is just like a crapshoot. Um, my biggest video is still the very first battle simulator one that I did, and it's totally one sided. Not a single, um, not a single ultramarine dies. It's just mowing down zombies. But people really dug it, and it came at a time where it wasn't as saturated with battle simulator videos. Um, I'd have to play Marines at 10 a squad to get the most out of it. Yeah, I agree with that. But kind of a Nurgle purist, and the seven number is pretty lucky. I'm gonna hit them each with like, you can have two leaders in each one. They're each gonna have two. I gotta shave points wherever possible. I don't know. They may turn into tens. They may. Um, but seven's a good lucky number for the Death Guard. In fact, I don't know if I ended up doing. I think I hit a seven on the Tallyman's little uh, clipboard. But we'll see. It all comes down to the points. It may end up being two squads of 10 instead of three squads of 7. But if I've got a Chaos Lord in each one, Chaos Lord's pretty decent. I think he shows up with a plasma pistol and a big melee weapon. He's got that aura thing going. He's got some other rule that's like reasonably decent. And then I can attach a Tallyman to one, Biologus Putrefier to another, and I think I have the Grenade guy sitting in a box over there, whatever his name is. Those will be fun. It'll teach me a decent amount of rules. But absolutely, like this first army is to teach me a bunch of specific rules to jump around to. I'm not going to win for a while, and it's not just going to be because I'm new. Like I'm hand constructing this army to be more about teaching than anything else. I am sure I'm going to come out of my first like game or two and be like, oh my god, I need to change this thing out. Like I'm not running with any Terminators. Um, because like I don't want to run Terminators and Poxwalkers and Plague Marines and like be trying to suss out the difference between them in my head and like build strategies at the same time with all three. So like some stuff I'm just cutting things out. Having no bloat drones. I'm running no boarding vehicles. I'm not running anything forward in rhinos. Veering away from Mortarion. But I have one big unit. I have Typhus as my warlord. I have one big squad of 20 Poxwalkers. I have some Plague Marines going around, so I'll get some shooting going. I'll have some Plague Burst Crawlers, so I can shell the daylights out of some stuff and try to induce some Battle Shock. I'll have this amazing, dreamy piece of artwork. It'll be a lot of rules to sort of rotate around and learn new stuff about. Did I pause that? Boop, 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 boop. I should check on my timer. I think I'll be able to hit this pretty soon. Yeah, I'll just cancel that timer. Let's rock. Let's rock. Have another sip of tea. Get back into Q-tipping. It's like cow tipping. I do have to try to reach some level of closure on this thing. the somewhat near future, as I do have to get up in the morning and drive my kid around to a bunch of stuff. So, with that in mind, ooh, my Plague Marines aren't Death Guard, they're my own legion that splintered across the Chaos Gods, Undivided, and the Imperium. That sounds dope. That sounds rad. I like the sound of that. Get these skulls all gnarly. Oh, they look sinister with this stuff streaking off of them. Sinister. Yeah, I like the sound of that, Dane. That sounds cool. I think that's another like really amazing part of this game is that there's so many people that are working on narrative armies, and it's got their own personal twist and spin on the lore because people are just really invested in it, and I think that's just absolutely amazing testament to this game. And a big part of why I'm psyched to be getting into it as a part of it. I like that idea of storytelling through gameplay. I've made it my life's work to do that, but also like in a mundane sense. Like I've run a lot of D&D campaigns where it's literally a bunch of people come together and sort of telling an interesting narrative story collectively together through play. There's something really nice about that. All right, this thing is off the chain. Off the chain. This thing looks cool and super grimy. I think I am going to have to go back and do some amount of highlight work. Like the boils are just gone. Maybe it's just more mineral spirits and more wiping, but maybe not. And I'm using a pretty light touch here. Not pretty, I'm very light touch. I'm like actually not really applying almost any pressure. I'm just letting the weight of the Q-tip do the work. Um, and letting the stuff stick where it sticks. Wow, this thing is transformed by the warp. Yeah, I think that's what I have to do is I just rub a little harder near the boils. I think I'm getting the hang of this. And I think I like it a lot. This is not my finest work, but thanks. What a compliment. Looks pretty scary, but also awesome. You know what? That's exactly what I was going for. That was the nicest thing someone said to me in a long time. That means it's working. All right, just give this. Oh, I can hear my poor little 1-year-old in the background on the other side of the house. Kid's got a cold. Having such trouble sleeping. Makes me horribly sad. Well, I sit here and paint my models in another room. My wife's got it handled. It's all good. But yeah, that kid's suffering. Head cold. Little baby. She doesn't know how to blow her nose yet. 2-year-old does. So she can sort of help herself out a little bit. A little bit of self-service that can go on there. But 1-year-old, not there yet. Just boogers all night. All right, so as we get around the horn here, yep, that's how to do it. I'm just applying the slightest amount of extra pressure when I'm near these boils, and it cleans them right up. Look at this. You old sages were right about this stuff. It is brilliant. I'm pretty sure the method I'm doing of just letting it drip all over the place is not the best, but this is getting there. It's like brushing your teeth, just brushing around your boils. Get them nice and cleaned up. Ready for action. Oh, this is so neat. All right, now I can be a little bit more aggressive. Brush a little bit harder around these boils. Yep, that's the crazy part, is that you can bring that color back up a notch or two. Oh, man. The suffering these Q-tips have been in. Okay, gently spin it around. Have another look-see on this side. Get under here a bit. Yeah, just look at that. You just give it a little bit of brushing. Gentle brushing. And stuff pops back out again. It's just hiding. If you brush hard enough, you will take the paint off. That is the catch. And I did that a little bit there, but that's fine. It's not an egregious spot. Yep, the key is very low pressure. Just get a little bit back up there where I was a little hard on it. There we go. Boo, 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 boo. Yeah. Yeah, the key is you just gotta take your time with light pressure. Very ginger about it. And it's almost like holding a drumstick. You just, I almost dipped it in there. You want it to like have a little bit of give in both directions. But little by little, you just, all the stuff that pops up, you're just bringing it back, and bringing it back. That is impressive. Not my work, but whoever came up with this method. Pretty awesome. So in retrospect, I do have more work to do now that I wasn't anticipating, but it's pretty cool work. As I put this stuff down. This thing has been grim darked up like crazy. I pleased where it's at. I do need to make the boils pop, pardon the disgusting pun, a little bit again. There are some spots that I think I got to get a little bit more contrast on this gutsy stuff. That might just be another round of whatever you were, Berserker Bloodshade. But beyond that, like it looks smokestacky. It smells fumey in here, I will tell you that. Yeah, Nurgle would be proud. This thing absolutely brings the plate. I could lighten this up. I know that for a fact. As I'm rubbing through here, I'm being super gentle. I could pull more of that color forward. I'm not gonna. Because I've grown attached to how it looks like this. I've grown really attached to just how gnarly gross this thing is. I'm going to get some of that off there now that I turn this thing around and see it. But man, this thing has been through the works. Grime dark. Look at that. Oh, just how it collects. Now it's getting all in these nuts and bolts. I think I'm gonna leave it like this, and I'll hit it with a little bit more wash in some spots. So here's the catch: is that this leaves so much close contrast. Let me see if I can hold this in a way where it's. Oh, I'd have to do this. This might be a little bit of a mess. Am I going to get this thing to focus? I don't think I will. I don't think it'll focus this close. I'll just hold it there. It's getting so much contrast, like millimeter by millimeter here, that it sort of puts to shame what the washes do. So I'm going to have to go over a couple layers of detail on the washes elsewhere on it so that they pop that much. this thing looks gross. This thing looks absolutely gross. I love it. So I think I'm going to leave the streaking dark grime at this level. Wow. It is transformative. And obviously, this is 100% the kind of thing that you leave to dry overnight and then you make some decisions tomorrow. So I'm not going to make any snap calls about washes right now. That guy definitely changed. Man, that Tyrant's going to get a lot more rust wash on it now that I got it. I think the thing is with that though, those panels are so flat that you really have to streak in some patterning, whereas this is so rough to the touch. It's so much like terracotta with all that porous bubbling on it that I barely did any rubbing. I just let the liquid just pull stuff. Yep. All those flies I did in the beginning don't really show up. I'll hit them with something. Very cool. I think I'm going to need to dry brush the metal, the lead belcher stuff. I'll dry brush that with a super light gray. I'll put some of the detail in on the boils and the flies again. Then I'll paint the base. Call it a day. Look at how disgusting you are. Let me see if I can get it to just sit nicely like that. Look at that project. This didn't even take that many streams to do. It was a far cry. The assembly on this guy is very, very simple. I like that. This is a really good, I would say, beginner model. The pieces are nice and chunky. The assembly instructions are very straightforward. I forgot, I still got to do my Christmas ornaments to hang on it, but I'll do that off camera at some point. But yeah, it's easy to assemble. Parts make sense. There's a lot of kit bashing opportunity on this to either steal parts from it for something else or add kit bash things to it. Yeah, some agrax on that metal would definitely be good too. That's a good point. That's a good point. I think I'll probably do both. I'll probably put some agrax on it to pull some of the little spots out, and then I'll hit the edge with something. I could also rust it. But I rust almost all the metal that I do. But then again, it's a matching army. Yeah, some agrax on there. A little rust in some spots might be fine. I think this grate is going to get rusted out. I think this is the part that I'll do like a ton. And I'll definitely agrax up these tubes. Get those nice and shiny. This will be a fine little piece of pottery. All right, gang. On that note, I think I'm going to bounce. I'm pretty tired. I got to get up in the morning. This is an amazing experiment. Thank you for being along for the ride. Lizard, thank you for pushing me. Not even pushing me, for bringing this whole streaking grime thing up. This has been a fun part of the whole journey. Thank you for recommending it, I guess is the point. I've learned a lot, and obviously just being able to do this on stream is humbling and fun. And on that note, clear up a couple more boils over here. We'll call it a night. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.